Okay, so I am Libby Morgan, and we're going to be talking about causal comparative research. First, I'm going to talk about what is causal comparative research, and I explain it as causal comparative research is used after a difference has been found between groups. For example, in a correlation, we would want to attempt to find the cause for the difference. It is referred to as an ex post facto research, which means after the fact, because the differences among the group already exist, but we want to find out what caused the difference. So to understand what causal comparative research is, we must first see how it compares to other research methods, such as correlational research and experimental research. Most people confuse causal comparative research with correlational, which they do have a lot of similarities, but they're very different in how they're conducted and what questions they address. So first I'm going to compare causal comparative with correlational research. And causal comparative attempts to reveal cause and effect relations, whereas correlational simply reveals if there is a difference between the groups. In causal comparative, it includes 2 or more groups of participants, whereas correlational only includes 1 group of participants. Causal comparative has 1 dependent variable, and correlational has 2 or more variables. Causal comparative focuses on differences between groups, whereas correlational focuses on relations among the variables in one group. Next, I'm going to compare causal comparative with experimental. Causal comparative, the participants and groups are already established before they are analyzed further, whereas in experimental, the participants are randomly selected and then randomly assigned to groups. Also in causal comparative, the variable of interest is not to be manipulated. It already exists among the participants. And in experimental, the researcher determines who gets what treatment by manipulating the variable of interest. Now I'm going to talk about when causal comparative research is used. It can be helpful to use causal comparative research if it's applicable to the study. It's helpful to use it in pilot studies before an extensive experimental research is conducted. Although the researcher must select participants that already possess the characteristic that he or she would want to induce in their control group later. If the research has a good idea that the treatment or condition cause an effect, then it would be worthwhile to conduct a more extensive experiment in which they would manipulate a variable if it's ethical. Causal comparative research can also be used before implementing a program, since the results could reveal if the program caused a significant difference among the groups. For example, before writing a grant proposal, it could be useful to see how a program or treatment may cause a difference in the population or sample. If the researcher notices that the presence of their proposed program showed a significant degree of change in a group of participants, they would be more likely to receive the funding. Now I'm going to talk about how it's used. So the first step in using causal comparative research, we would form a research question or hypothesis. We would first determine what sparks our interest, especially between 2 or more groups that may have performed differently or had a major difference, which would be our cause or effect. For example, we may be interested in why some 5th graders had more absences than others. After noticing this difference, we may hypothesize that the 5th graders with more absences live in single-parent homes. We would need to test this hypothesis before forming a conclusion that this was the cause of the absences. In step 2, we're going to identify the 2 groups. We're going to identify the groups that show differences among a variable. that you're interested in and compare them based on the dependent variable, which is what we're measuring. In selecting the two groups, which are going to be referred to as the comparison groups, the researcher must determine how the groups differ. There are two ways the comparison groups can differ. Either one group can possess a characteristic that the other group lacks, or both groups possess the characteristic, but to different degrees. For example, our comparison groups would be the fifth graders who had a large amount of absences and the fifth graders that did not. In this step, we would want to compare them based on which participants live in a single-parent home. We also have to note that each group will need to have at least 15 participants, so that we can have a total of 30, and it can be representative of a population and have statistical power. In step 3, we will identify how equal participants are among other factors. This is important because we want to reduce possible confounding variables, which are other causes for the results. We would identify the commonalities or differences that exist between these participants. The more the groups resemble, referred to as homogeneity, whatever, the less chance there is of other potential causes for the effect. We want to account for other commonalities or differences that exist between the two groups of fifth graders, between high absences and low absences. There could be other differences to account for, such as lower socioeconomic status, or anything of the sort. In step 4, we've already identified our differences. Now we want to control for them among the participants. To make the study stronger and more reliable, we'll need to use techniques put in place to account for the identified differences from step 3. Some techniques may include pairwise matching, comparing subgroups, and analysis of covariance. Using our previous example, once we have identified other differences among our two groups of fifth graders, we need to include this when we run a test on SPSS or whatever program we're using. In step 5, we will analyze and interpret our data using descriptive and inferential statistics. Descriptive statistics that are normally used are the mean and standard deviation. The inferential statistics normally used are the t-test and analysis of covariance and chi-square. After analyzing the results, we complete the last step of the scientific method, which is forming a conclusion. Next, I'm going to talk about what types of questions will causal comparative research answer. Causal comparative research can answer questions that are focused on an independent variable of interest. For example, demographic, personality, ability, socioeconomic status, and the works. Some example questions include, how does the presence of the accelerated reader program affect reading scores in 5th grade? Or how does being raised by a single parent affect absenteeism in pre-K? Okay. Now it's Angela's. Let me take my screen off.
Can everyone see mine?
I can.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, this is Angela Beal. My part was causal comparative research. What type of data is used? To begin, data collection for causal and comparative research, the researcher will need to determine the group or the equality of the group by collecting information based on numerous variables. The researcher may use questionnaires, survey interviews, direct observation, and background variables. This is quantitative data. Based on the groups or the information, the researcher determines the type of control procedures, methods comparing homogeneous groups, subgroups, and analysis covariances will be in place to ensure the data. Procedures are techniques that ensure equality, extraneous variables, and data analysis. Part of the control procedures is matching, comparing homogeneous groups and subgroups, and analysis of covariances. Matching is a technique for equating groups or of one or more variables. For instance, matching one group similar to another. One thing you must do is must be eliminated to find it. If you can't find anything where the groups are equal in one or more variable, then that group must be eliminated. Also, you must find whether or not if it's difficult to match participants or one or more variables simultaneously. You also have to compare groups homogeneously and subgroups. By comparing those homogeneous groups or subgroups in another way to control extraneous variables. Comparing the different groups may lower the number of participants. You may have to form subgroups to represent all levels of the control variables, and also create factorial analysis variances by determining the effects of grouping variable separately and together. The analysis is a statistical technique that adjusts scores on a dependent variable for some other variable based on performance related to that variable. Removes the initial advantage by doing advantage, so that by the end of the results can be fairly compared or equal. So if you have a student who did better on one test than the other student because they used two different tests, but you try to compare their information, then you need to remove that variable, remove those two different tests, because that, of course, construes the information. Causal comparative research, what types of data analysis is most appropriate? Data analysis in causal and comparative studies involves a variety of descriptive and inferential statistics. Descriptive means that most commonly they use the mean or the average, and then they use standard deviation, which is the spread of set scores. And inferential analysis, the most commonly used is a t-test, which measures if it's significantly different. Analysis variance is used to measure significant differences for three or more groups, and then chi-square is used to compare groups' frequency if an event occurs more frequent than the other. In the end, you must also do pay attention to data analysis precautions. A word of caution: interpreting the findings in a causal comparative study requires considerable caution. Without randomization, manipulation, and control factors, it is difficult to establish cause and effect relations with any great degree of confidence. The cause-effect relation may in fact be the reverse of the one that was hypothesized. Certain precautions and variables you have to look out for is gender, behavior, and also order of causality, which means what caused it. That's the end of mine. Who's next?
Me. Let me see. Make sure I do this correctly. Can you guys see mine?
I can.
Yes.
Okay. Let me see. Let me make sure it's not cooperating. All right, guys. So do you see my name right now?
I do.
Yeah.
Okay. So my section was on reliability and validity. And before I got into how to make sure you maintain it, I wanted to list the different types of reliability. The first one is inter-rater reliability, and that's just the extent to which the same results are yielded regardless of who is conducting the test. So that basically means if you have 5 different researchers that are on one study, you get the exact same results no matter if researcher 1 does it or researcher number 5 does it. The equivalent forms reliability means that it's used to ensure that tests of the same constructs yield the same results. So if you have 2 separate tests and they are trying to find the same thing, you can measure both of their reliability based on what results you get from each one. Like if they have the same construct, they should yield the same or at least similar results. The next one is internal consistency. That's used to ensure that variables within a test that claim to measure the same thing will yield the same types of results among themselves and consistently reflect the test as a whole. So that means, I know it might sound like the same thing because they're all talking about reliability, but it's just talking about how to get the same results no matter what facet of the test you're talking about. So it just means that whether you're talking about the constructs or what you're measuring or the sample test or whatever it is, that it as a whole reflects what you're measuring. Test-retest reliability is used to ensure that the type of test or measure is consistent and useful over periods of time. And that means that you get the same results whether you test it today, tomorrow, or a year from now. Equivalence and stability, it's kind of redundant it's kind of like a sum of all of the other ones, but it just ensures that measures, constructs, and results yielded by two types of the same test are similar. So like the gist of reliability is that you get the same thing every time and that it always measures the same thing, no matter when or where you're conducting the test. So ways to ensure reliability. I just wanted to give a little background. I said, because causal comparative research is the examination of cause and effect relationships, reliability is crucial to the research process. Reliability is a process in which the same results will be given regardless of how many times the experiment or study is conducted. If the research yields different results during each trial, a causal relationship cannot be established. And ways to maintain reliability in causal comparative research is holding the independent variable at a constant. You have to conduct the test multiple times to ensure that the same results are yielded, and conduct the test at different periods in time to ensure that the same results are yielded as well. The next thing I wanted to talk about is validity, and there are also different types of validity as well. Content validity assures that questions and other measures in the study measure what they say they are measuring. So that just means that if you're giving a personality test, at the end of it, you aren't attributing shy personality traits to someone who is clearly extroverted. Criterion-related validity shows correlation between one test and another. And that's kind of like what I was talking about with the reliability. Just if you compare two different tests together, and it's the same, then it shows a correlation between the two of them. Construct validity examines whether the study properly measures the construct it is claiming to measure. And that is, the construct are just, ways that they're measuring and what it's measuring, and just making sure that you're getting results that properly correlate with what you're trying to measure. Consequential validity examines the possible creation of harmful effects on participants, and this is actually something I hadn't heard of in my past research methods classes, so this was a good little tidbit for me. So ways to ensure validity. Although there are different types of validity, the main type that should first be examined is face validity. Without strong face validity, the other forms would be irrelevant. In examining the validity of research helps to distinguish quality research from the poor research. For example, and this is the example I just gave, if a study that is attempting to establish differences between outgoing and extroverted people, that should say introverted people, sorry, yield results showing that an extroverted person is shy and reserved, the study has poor validity. And to ensure validity in causal comparative research, the researcher should choose participants based on similar characteristics. And it's because the sample populations in this type of research aren't randomized. This will enable the perceived cause of certain effects to be specific to characteristics of the study instead of caused by confounding variables. And I think Libby kind of hinted at this in her slides, just making sure that your sample groups are, I think the word was homogenized. It eliminates the possibility of confounding variables, and confounded variables are just any other thing that can be attributed to why this causal relationship has happened. So now I want to talk about external and internal validity. External validity describes the ability of results from one study to be applied to other groups of people or studies. In causal comparative research, this may be somewhat difficult unless the conditions are identical, research results from a specific causal relationship won't be able to be applied to a different type of situation. And that's just because you are trying to establish a specific relationship. So it will be hard to apply results from a cause and effect relationship to any other study that doesn't examine that same type of cause and effect relationship. Internal validity describes how well research explains the cause of a variable and is in turn most relevant in types of research that attempt to establish a cause and effect relationship. Thus, internal validity is most important in causal comparative research. However, because the independent variable isn't manipulated in this type of research, I don't know why that got cut off. I'm sorry, guys. But because the independent variable isn't manipulated in that type of research, that doesn't leave much room, or really any room, for a properly descriptive sample size. Like, because the sample population has to be so specific, it can't really be, it won't really be able to be applied to anyone else. So in terms of causal comparative research, it has to have very strong internal validity because those subgroups are so homogenized. And that's it.
Okay. Very good, people. I'm going to try and see if I can't bring mine up. And
Let's see.
sorry about that.
Do you see the green thing on the?
I did. Hold on one second. I did, and I actually had it pulled up where I could actually see the PowerPoint. Let's see if I can do it this way. Let me know when you guys see anything.
Okay.
Okay, we see it.
Okay. I'm waiting for the, okay. I did causal and effect examples, and I'll have to refer back to my notes, but let's see. Give examples of some research using this method. Some research that I saw was high school dropout rates caused by repeated.
Oh, hold on. I think we're only seeing the email.
Email. Wow.
So you may need to go back and share a different window with us.
All right. Hold on one second.
Yeah, I'm seeing the email.
And you guys don't see this one? That actually starts off with the. What about now?
No. Try to.
I'm going under present, and let's see if that. What about now?
Well, you're probably seeing it on your screen, but when it pulls up which box to share with us, you may want to click on a different one.
All right.
Because it may have shared this window with us.
All right, hold on. Okay, I'm under screen share.
And then when it asks you which screen you want to share, just click on the presentation one.
Because it doesn't ask me, it just says screen share. It doesn't ask me which one I want to share.
When you click on share your screen, it should be this white box that pops up, and it'll show you all of the windows you have open, and you click on whichever window you want us.
And it doesn't. Mine just has the little green TV, like with an arrow in it.
Mm-hmm. And when you
And
click it, what happens?
nothing. I actually see everybody. Jessica, your faces in full view, and there's Angela, but and there's me, but it does not show any screens whatsoever. Let me see if I can. I'm looking at my task view. Are you guys seeing everything that's up there?
No, we're not seeing your screen anymore. All right, hold on one second. Let me see what hold on a second.
Okay.
Thanks. I sure hope you can stop this while I'm searching.
Yeah, I think I'll have to edit it
Oh,
and
thank
just take
you,
out
thank
these
you.
little parts.
All right, so let me You guys see anything now?
No.
Dang. All right, let me see. What about now?
No. Try clicking on the screen share thing again and see if it changes.
On your what, dear? I'm sorry.
Try clicking on the little green TV thing again and see if it
Mhm.
changes.
All right. No, there is no showcase. Okay, I have showcase. I have chat. This would happen. Well,
Hang on.
I do not know what's going on.
Okay, I wonder if one of us can pull it up.
All right, hold on one sec. Okay.
Yeah, I'm about to. That's what I was
Okay.
trying to see if I can do.
How do I get this to link? Let's edit background layout transitions. Shoot. File. Open.
Okay, can you guys see it on mine?
Hold on one
Yes.
second. Okay, hold on one second. I'm trying to, well, I guess not. I guess not. Okay, so you guys can see it there, right? Thank God.
Do you want to just read it from my screen and then just tell me? I'll just
Okay.
click next whenever you want me to.
Okay. Now, what I am seeing is my first screen, causal and effect examples.
Yes.
Is that what you have?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm
No
pulling it up
problem.
somehow, but I can't see you guys, so just bear with me.
Okay.
I use causal and effect examples as in high school dropout rates are caused by repeating an elementary grade, or low income poverty caused juvenile delinquent acts. Communities that foster crime lack educational resources. Now, do you have the journal articles relating to as your next one?
Mm-hmm. Can you see it?
I'm looking at my screen because surprisingly I can't see yours.
Okay.
And if everybody else can, I'll go with it.
Guys, can you see the?
Try to open. Yeah, I can see it. Talisa, try opening back up your Google Hangout.
All right.
It may be in a different window completely.
All right, hold on one second. I see you now, Jessica. Oh.
Okay.
Well, can y'all hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, because I don't see anything now, except I see Jessica's face as though it's trying to come in.
Okay, it must be trying to load.
Okay,
Yeah.
So just give it a few seconds.
okay. Okay, so I see journal articles relating to causal and effect.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The first article I did was the effect of education on criminal conviction and incarceration. Research shows that criminals seem to be less educated than the rest of the population. Education increases wages, thus decreasing crime. More weight is placed on potential earnings, thus outweighing committing crimes and going to prison. Basically, the article was saying to me that the criminals actually committed more crimes because they lacked the education. And they said for those populations that actually had education, because of the wages and the earnings, then this decreased them wanting to even do the crime because they looked at, I could earn thus and so in the next 6 months, so why should I go and commit a crime and change that? So education, I guess, outweighed that.
Okay.
Journal 2 was on poverty and inequality. Research showed that adequate housing, clothes, foods, and shelter help alleviate educational disparities, and saying that if you at least had these mentioned, as in the housing, the clothing, the food, and shelter, that it would alleviate some of the disparities in education. Research has also shown that poverty and inequality determines the effects on life. If you don't have the education, then that's going to dictate basically whether you live in the poverty or not, or it's going to determine a lot of effects in your life. And education is like up there with the core of what you should have in order to alleviate some of the poverties and inequalities mentioned earlier. And the third journal article of causal and effect brought about the correlation between bullying and depression amongst adolescents. Studies shows that students that are involved in bullying have a greater chance of becoming depressed than children that were not, which I guess is self-explanatory. If they display bullying, then the chances are they are going to have a great amount of depression, or they're going to fall into depression more so than kids that were not bullied or did not show the bully tendencies. Some of the research questions were causal, when determination of whether one or more variable is considered, or if one or more factor may be the cause of it. Another one was rationale, involved the study to show the relationship between two or more variables, and the descriptive involved public opinion, the various opinions, or what audience you were actually, the study was intended for. Methodology determination, the cause and effect unfold by identifying a problem, agreeing on a problem statement, characterizing the causes, brainstorming all the possible causes, and asking the questions again, why does this happen? And guys, please forgive me. I can assure you I spell checked, and unfortunately it appears as though I did not. I will correct that though. And pros and cons. One pro was the ability to test the causal relationship and the ability to control the variable. You can actually test the relationship between them, and you can also control the variables that are introduced into it, whether you have one variable, two variable, or 3 variables. You can actually control that in the study. The cons is the amount of external validity and the artifactual, I want to say, situations. And I guess with the validity, the external, what external validities were used and actually coming into the cause and effect. So that's all I have. And I believe misspelled words.
Good job.
Well, thanks, guys. Again, I'm
Yay!
sorry about the misspelled words. If you guys will allow me to correct those words, I will.
So I have a quick
That's
question.
fine.
I have a quick question. So how long did it take us? Do you see a timer that says how long it took?
Uh-huh. No, it doesn't. It doesn't say how long it took, but it'll tell me when I go back and look at the video.
Mhm.
Okay.
We've been doing
In
so
which I'm
about
gonna-
34 minutes.
It was 34 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Okay. So we definitely keep up the time, but I know I went back and made some corrections to my slides. So is that our first try or is that our all in all try? That's the question. Was that it for the actual reading of the slides, or was that our just trying to see how well it works or how we're going to do this?
Mhm.
Oh, I thought that was it.
I did too.
Yeah.
That's fine. Just wanted to make sure.
That's fine. I mean, it turned out really good.
Yeah.
And send you guys the link so
Okay.
that y'all can go
Okay.
and view it.
Okay.
Okay.
And I'll work on editing out like the parts where we talked and stuff in between.
Thank you.
Okay.
And then I'll send it to her. What she wanted us to do was just to open up a Word document and paste the link and drop it in the Dropbox.
Okay.
Because she said it won't fit.
Okay.
Okay. So now, with you sending it, we don't need to send it in that Dropbox. You're going to actually send it for us, or do we send the separate parts?
I don't know. She didn't really say.
Okay. Okay.
I guess either
We're
one.
still recording, aren't we?
We are, but I can take
Okay.
this part out.
Great. Great.
So, I mean, I guess after you send us the link, we can all just post it. I mean,
Okay.
paste it in a separate Word document and then upload it to
That's
the
cool.
Yeah.
the
Because
Dropbox.
I'm noticing on certain things she'll do the group, but then on other things, it's like, oh, you still haven't submitted, and you're like, okay, but we submitted it out there on the group discussion thing.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, guys, this has been very trying. I must say, I've never did a group proposal. I've enjoyed all of the group members thoroughly, but it gets very confusing for me because my actual presentation that I sent you guys the first time was on my proposal. So please forgive me. But I don't want to prolong the time. I want to thank all of you all. It's very thorough. Everything was wonderful. Thank you so very much for finding that for me, Jessica, Corey. Thank you guys, Angela, everybody for bearing with me. And I thank you. I can't thank you enough.
No problem.
Thank you.
All right.
all right, bye, ladies.
Bye.
All right. Bye. Y'all have a good one.
Bye.
You
Bye-bye.
too.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.